Welcome to the show.
So Syria had chemical attacks this week.
Yeah. So a few days ago, there was at least probably 70, probably more. There's no exact numbers. People were killed by a nerve agent attack, and so they're saying the symptoms match sarin nerve gas, probably because people didn't smell anything, and the symptoms that were caused by like the frothing in the mouth and the issues in your body.
The thing was they
sarin.
couldn't smell chlorine, right?
Yeah, it's odorless.
Yeah.
Sarin, and then like everything else that's been used before is like chlorine gas and mustard, which you definitely smell. Yeah, so about 70 people were killed. Basically, it's sort of like a new one of those things, because I feel like in Syria, there's like every 6 months there's something that happens that's so bad that everyone has to care about it again, because it goes through these cycles, because we're all like human beings and we just cannot absorb that much negative information constantly.
But this is
so even though the situation hasn't gotten better, like it'll go out of the news, it takes like individual events that are really, really bad, and this is one of those. So this is one of those. Like,
and it's like, how much can sharing it on Facebook actually do as well? It's such a hard thing.
I think it does something, as much as it feels like it's nothing, and it really is. Like each individual share is a drop in a bucket, but it's a bucket that makes politicians do something about it, because they realize how much people care about it. So this attack's happened. A lot of people have gotten really angry about it. You see a lot of like posts on social media. Politicians have already come out like talking really strongly about it. So
oh wow,
I think it actually has had an impact, because what we saw last week was America coming out saying they were no longer prioritizing removing President Assad from power as one of their strategic goals in Syria.
Do you want to give a quick overview of the situation?
So the Syria civil war has been going for about 7 years. It's between a lot of different groups, between a lot of different opposition groups and a few jihadist groups, including ISIS, and the government of President Bashar al-Assad, who is mainly, and it's sort of split along sectarian lines, in Sunni Islam versus the Alawites, which is President Assad's sect. So they had the uprising like 7 years ago. So the context for this attack is, I think in 2013 there was a previous chemical attack by Syria, and they kind of confirmed it. The UN managed to confirm that it was a Syrian chemical attack. And President Obama had said, if we see chemical weapons being used before this attack, it would be a red line. This is like a famous moment in this war, because like it or not, America is basically the world's policeman, right? So if you're doing something really, really bad, the one country you don't want to get involved is America, because they have, and in the past they will get involved, and they will basically decide it one way or the other. So they did it in Kosovo. They've done it. They did it in Iraq, basically.
It seems kind of crazy that they haven't gotten involved yet.
So this was the moment when. So President Obama said this was a red line. Syria then did the attack with chemical weapons in 2013. They found people who had been killed by like chemical weapons, chlorine or whatever it was, and the Americans kind of stalled. So it was sort of a question of, there was a little moment when, like a few days or a week or so, when they weren't sure if there was going to be like cruise missile strikes, precision strikes on Assad's positions. At this point in the war, it could have gone either way. Like someone could have actually defeated President Assad. If America had actually gotten involved, they probably would have. Like knocked their air force out really quickly. This is what they did with the Iraqis. It took like 2 days and they destroyed their entire air force, all their infrastructure. That's the power of America. Like when they decide to actually act, they can basically wipe someone out. But what happened is Russia managed to negotiate with the Syrians to give up all of their chemical weapons. And because they had come up with a plan and America still hadn't done anything yet, the Americans basically went, oh, okay, we'll go with that. So they ended up not doing anything, and they ended up looking really weak because they weren't going to act.
That's the big reason this is so huge, right?
Yeah, kind of. So what it left the door open was for Russia, which still had a hangover from the Libyan thing, where America kind of did them over in the Security Council and managed to like bomb the crap out of Libya. They'd been saying no to everything in the Security Council, no matter what President Assad did.
What's the Security Council? I don't know what that is.
Security Council of the UN is the one that basically you need their permission in order to do legal interventions in other countries.
Right.
in terms of international law, you need the Security Council's approval, or you need the approval of the entire General Assembly of the UN, which isn't going to happen. So basically, Russia kind of stepped in, and because there was a moment later, like 2 years later, where Syria was, like, the president was actually losing ground because the Turkish were supporting the rebels. It's really complicated. Everyone's against ISIS. Turkey was supporting the rebels who were attacking Assad, so Assad was losing. Turkey shot down one of the Russians' fighter jets. The Russians, before they got that shot down, the Russians actually got involved because they saw President Assad losing. Assad buys a lot of weapons off the Russians, and he's also a strategic ally for them, so he gives them a position in the Middle East. So they actually put boots on the ground. So they actually put planes, and they brought a aircraft carrier around, and basically started bombing the crap out of the rebel areas, which is why Aleppo fell, and why the Syrian government has managed to take basically all the major positions that the rebels had before. Now, this attack in 2017, 70 people killed. A week ago, Trump had said, don't care about Assad being in power anymore. Like, he can stay. He basically is focused on ISIS. But this has happened, and Trump's actually come out really strongly going, this isn't acceptable, this has crossed many lines. So this is one of the quotes that he said that's actually quite important, because he always said President Obama made this worse by not acting. By being weak, he basically opened the door for this to be prolonged.
I never thought I'd agree with Trump on anything.
He's always said
he's
that?
sounding good right
Yeah,
now.
during his campaigns.
Oh.
He definitely was like...
But back then he said, don't go to Syria.
This isn't like an intelligent position. This is everything President Obama does is wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
In this case, you might be right.
Broken clock's right twice a day.
Trump
Yeah.
was right.
Like, there were pacifists around World War II that did not help anything.
Yeah.
Made it worse. So, he's come out saying, this crosses a lot of lines for me. So that kind of echoes President Obama's
That's the same
red line
thing Obama said, right?
Yeah, exactly. But he's sort of saying that by reminding people of President Obama having a red line that you couldn't cross.
So he's learnt that if I say this and don't do it, it's going to be worse. So if I say it, I have to actually do something.
By saying it, he's making it sound like he's really actually going to do something, because there's no way he wants to have that quote out there. This crosses lots of lines, and then not do anything.
Do you think
Yeah.
he's got some stupid quotes out there already?
No, I think this is quite intentional.
Okay.
Wasn't the actual proper reason they didn't want to directly intervene, like soldiers on the ground with America, was because Russia was on the other side of it, right?
Before Russia, Russia was on the other side of it, but I think they wouldn't have put boots on the ground. They would have just bombed the crap out of them.
Right.
President Obama was definitely adverse to putting any boots on any ground, because he didn't want to get involved in another Iraq, which is an intelligent thing to do, because no one wants another Iraq. That's basically what's caused all these problems.
It seems like everyone's problem with that, though, was that there wasn't a reason to go in. It seems like there's pretty great reasons to go into this one.
No, this was the same before as well.
Oh.
Oh no, you mean Syria as in there was no good reasons for Iraq?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they weren't. But regardless of whether there were good reasons or not, a lot of people supported the Americans when they first went into Iraq.
Right.
And it turned into just the worst quagmire. Thousands of US soldiers killed, $70 billion a week. They've spent over trillions of dollars on Iraq. So they didn't want to do that again. So I can understand their reluctance, but I think President Trump is basically indicating that he's going to be more of a warmonger, which, I don't know, puts him on a collision course with the Russians, because they have troops in Syria.
Is warmonger the right word, or interventionist? Or?
Yeah, there's different words. I think they all mean the same thing. More active.
Mm.
Escalation. But it's always an argument of whether that escalation produces a quicker end, which is possible.
So Assad's regime is responsible for the chemical attacks?
It's not confirmed, is it?
It's not confirmed, and the Russians came up with a story saying that it was the rebel... they had sort of two stories. They were saying it's the... No, I think Assad was saying the rebels did it.
So, well, who was hit by it?
The rebels
Okay.
were hit by it. The Russians were saying that there were chemical weapons manufacturing plants in the town run by the rebels that got hit by bombs, and because of that, it got spread. But everyone's saying that makes no sense. That's way too far-fetched. It's way more likely that the country that already had them will use them.
Right.
So America's calling the Russians out publicly and saying, no, that makes no sense. Nikki Haley, who's the UN ambassador or something like that, I think she's the head of the Security Council at the moment because it's a rotating presidency. has basically said, if the Security Council doesn't do anything, we'll consider doing something on our own. So she's definitely signaling that America's willing to do something, even if Russia continues to veto any resolutions that come out of the Security Council.
It's the second time I've read that this week. I read that US would do something alone about North Korea as well.
Yeah. I think they're basically like, we're not getting anywhere, but I think they need to throw their weight around to maybe force the Russians and the Chinese to consider not vetoing everything. So I think there's probably a lot of stuff going on in the background that we don't see. Regardless, this is a horrible thing. It's always like a bit of a challenge when stuff like this happens, because you're like, yeah, this is awful, but is it any more awful than them dropping barrel bombs on civilians? They've been killing civilians the entire time for 7 years, thousands of them. So is it like, why do we only care when dozens get killed by this particular method? As barbaric as it is, the result is exactly the same as what they've been going through.
Well,
and why do we suddenly empathize with them now? And then if they're like an asylum seeker who comes to Australia, we would just like put them in a prison.
Yeah, it's...
So
like,
it's like...
This is going to sound cold, but honestly, they got better footage of it. That's what it comes down to. The cover photo of all the videos for this is a kid, like, choking to death. Like, you have to... There's a special circle in hell if that doesn't make you feel bad about life. Yeah.
And that's like, people need images to imagine stuff. So photojournalism is like probably one of the most powerful tools in the world at the moment. So I'm not necessarily against it, but it's just the fact that we haven't been able to like consistently care, even when like the outcome has been just as bad the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, you guys watch White Helmets. They've been bombing these people for the entire time.
That was the only real ray of sunshine in that video, which is a very little one, is that it's still the White Helmets. Like, in that video, you see them running everywhere. Yeah. So if you're going to support anyone, I would probably, and you feel like you need to give your money to something, I'd probably go for that.
Yeah, Medicine Sans Frontiers. Or,
yeah.
I'm not sure what other agencies. There's Preemptive Love. Apparently they're very good.
Because it's, the hardest part about this one is how kind of useless you feel.
Yeah. No, like, I think posting is not that bad a thing, because people look at the hashtags, and a politician looks at it and goes, oh, there's thousands of people posting about this. Yeah. This is a democracy and people obviously care about this, so if I act on it, then I look good.
And think about, I actually got annoyed at someone who posted today for like a second before I realised I was being such a massive tool. Yeah. Of
it can't hurt.
I wanted to go, this isn't new. But then I thought, like, they're only trying to help. They're not doing more than I'm doing.
You literally can't hurt anyone by posting on Instagram about it. Yeah. Like, if anyone gets upset, then that's their problem. But you might help. You might show it to someone who hasn't seen it yet, and you add to the weight of the sheer numbers of people who care about it. So I think it does something.
Yeah. So it's really hard to transition out of a topic like that, because especially the next one is not in any way serious.